Hello, what's good, people? It's Jem here, and we are going to go through the outcome of our Agile Helpline session. So I want to try and keep this brief, but a long story short, we ended up with two conversations to speak around, and that was how do you differentiate a user story? Should all PBIs be user stories? So this is the first thing we want to tackle. Um, we started to answer this with a bit of a background in terms of what is a user story. Now, a user story is a big topic in of itself, but let's just say it captures who you are, what do you want, and why do you want it. And you've maybe heard it in the template of as a I want so that. The powerful thing about a user story is that it's meant to be clear on the customer, and it should be something which is solution agnostic. So in other words, we do not capture the solution in a user story so that we can empower the people building the product to come up with options. So a user story, as you can see here, is a way to understand customer needs, and it's called an invitation to a conversation. We also stated that the most forgotten part about user stories is not the template, but it's the behavioral components, which is the card, create the card, have the conversation, and then get the confirmation. Anyway, so now we've got a little bit of a baseline knowledge in what a user story is. If you didn't know, now you do. Should all product backlog items be a user story? The short answer is no, they don't have to be. You could just create a product backlog item which has the basic attributes. And by the basic attributes, if I could maybe, I might have removed the card. Oh, it's here. Yeah. As long as you can describe what it is, explain the value, put it in order, and then size it, that would be sufficient. So that's the first thing. You don't have to use a user story. What we went on to talk about was why would you not use a user story? Well, quite simply, you don't fancy using that tool. Too many people argue about the format of user stories. That's one thing. Another example is that it's a turnkey type of action. It's not something which requires us to state the problem or the opportunity without the solution. We know what we need to do. We're going to put the solution in the card and we're just going to crack on. So it's straightforward. That's one reason. So something simple or complicated. It's hard to slice the work vertically. So when you think about the diagram of vertically or horizontally slicing work, we want to be able to go end to end. And the composition of some teams do not allow that to be the case. So then you're going to end up with a card stuck on your board for a long time. Yep, that kind of covers it off. We also spoke about examples of bad user stories very briefly. As a user is not a good one because who's the user? As a database engineer, this is again symptomatic of misunderstanding a user story because it's focused on an internal team, not a customer. All right, let's move on to the second topic that came up. PO is creating sprint goals by themselves. There's a bit more to this, and I don't want to get this too wrong, but this is something which was to do with planning, and it was called planning woes. And here's some sound bites on that conversation. Yeah, supporting PO and team. PO experience is lower. Sprint goal can change halfway through, but expecting new goal should be hit. So from the conversation, two things that we started to surface was work is coming into the sprint and nothing is getting swapped out. Now, that is obviously a problem. So what we said was, are we measuring the composition? If you measure the composition of the work in done, we can quickly find out where our time is being spent and if we're being overloaded, right? So imagine the green was planned work and the red was unplanned work and the brown was, I don't know, some sort of learning or Kaizen like improvement stuff. By doing this, you're collecting the empirical data to demonstrate that unplanned work is coming in and nothing else is falling out, so something has to give. That's one thing to think about. The second problem in this conversation was the sprint goal is formulated by one person who is the product owner, and it's not a collaborative effort. If the PO does create the goal by themselves, this means that naturally, if the developers are just fed the goal and they can't collaborate, they're going to discover a lot more during the sprint. And therefore, the variance, like the emergence of options and stuff that's going to come out, could be a lot more than what we expect. Don't misunderstand this to mean that we shouldn't expect things to emerge during the sprint. Of course we do. But we're talking about the scale of that emergence. So instead of the PO creating the sprint goal by themselves, this should be a collaborative effort that happens in the sprint planning. The product owner walks in, they may have a goal or an objective in their mind, but we're looking to collaborate, discuss, and even negotiate, because we want the people doing the work to inform the art of the possible, which is the goal, with the product owner. So these are a couple of things we recommended, and that's where we got to. Anyway, I hope that was useful. Maybe a little bit more of a waffling on than I wanted, but here we are. All right, we'll send the notes for the other sessions, and we look forward to seeing you at the Agile Helpline as well. Peace.